The Rebbe's Ani Ledodi Maamar and Chelik Daled of Kontreisim. We're on page Shin Samach Zayin Eis Vav. Okay. The last thing the Rebbe is explaining was there's two aspects. There's Mekabel Kunim B'Sefer Panim Yofes. That is the Kabbalah from the Avodah of the Jew was there before. And then there's a higher level, Umar Panim Seichel, whatever it is. The Kulam, the way the king is Megala from above. So Lepel comes out and he says like this level, Umar Panim Seichel Kulam, is a level of Tainug, which is even a higher level than Tshuva. Because this, that the Jews are Mekabel, the king come to the king, that's the level of Tshuva. And that the king is Mekabel B'Sefer Panim Yofes. That's the level of Tainug that comes from Tshuva. But then there's a higher level, which is the level of Tainug that comes even higher than the whole inyan of Tshuva. Okay? So he says, based on this, we need to understand, because that's contradictory to the whole concept of Elul. So he says, like the Tzarech level, we need to understand that we are now moving from what we learned before as understood, Shagili Ba'elul, that this revelation of Elul is not only the Sinas Kerech La'Aveda. Before the Rebbe explained that Elul is not Aveda Milmaila, it's just Hashem by coming into the field gives you the strength, the ability to do it. So it's still not coming from Hashem, it's coming from the Jew. But that, like he says, what is that? When the king is in the field. The king being in the field, the king comes out into the field, is not awakening anybody. He's just giving everybody the ability to come see him. So that's okay. But here we have a different thing. The king is revealing to the Jew a level of tainug, a connection that's even greater than tshuva. It's also awakening the person. Through this, that the king is accepting everybody, especially when he's giving this Gilu Mamayla, and that's awakening them to do tshuva. But in other words, the Rebbe is asking a very simple question. Elul is Aveda Vani Ledodi. It's Aveda, not revelation from above like Nissen or Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur for that matter. It's Aveda of the person. And here we're saying, by the king being in the field, the king is not only giving them the potential, he's revealing godliness to them on a very lofty level. So how do you reconcile these two things? Yesh lahesev, and to even add to the question, she'inyan zashad the gilu the Elul. It also awakens the person. Move and that's also the inyan of the king in the field. Meaning, when the king is in the field, not only like he said before, does everybody have the ability, meaning it's just the potential that people can come to see the king, but it's really more than that also. The knowledge of the people, that the king is in the field, where they are, is in their territory, so to speak, that itself awakens the will to meet the king. So basically, the Rebbe is asking very simple. Here we're talking, according to the whole Alter Rebbe's mashal of the king in the field, and he greets everybody, and he awakens it. How could we say that this is just Hashem giving us the ability to do it when it seemingly is much more? Even the fact that he's in the field awakens a will to the people to go meet him. Because he's near them. He's not in the palace that you can't get into. So this seemingly is contradictory to the whole concept of Elul. Okay, so now the Rebbe explains it this. The explanation of this is as follows. This will of the Jew, of the people, to receive the king, is mitzad etzem mitziyusam, is their essence. It's not coming from the king. In other words, there's Aveda that a Jew does, that's stimulated from above. And then there's, after the Jew does Aveda, again, they get a greater revelation from above, right? The Rebbe says here, it's even more than that. The essence of the Jew wants to be with the king. Whether the king is there or not, whether the king is awakening or not, the essence of the Jew is to be with Hashem. Kivin Sham Melech Hu Lev Shalom. Like the Rambam brings down in Hilchos Melachim, the Rambam says the king is the heart of the nation. Now the heart, your heart is you. If the king is the heart of the nation, so the king is you, you're the king. L'chein his kashrusam lemelech, hu be'etzem mitziusam. Therefore, the connection to the king is in their very essence. So, what does the king do over here by coming into the field? When the king and the nation are far apart, he's in the palace and they're in the field or midbar. It could be that their connection to the king, and therefore their will to meet the king, is behelim, concealed. And by the king coming into the field, the will is begilus. In other words, like this, the king is not doing anything. All he's doing is revealing something that's really there. There's a big difference to create something or to reveal something that's there already. The Rebbe is explaining that the connection between, let's speak of Jew and Hashem, the relationship between a Jew and Hashem is the Jew and Hashem are the same, one and the same. What the problem is, though, that essential bond of the Jew and Hashem being one, sometimes it's distant, meaning it's not revealed. Not that it's not there. The king is not creating something new that the people don't have. Hashem and Elul coming into Melech Basada is not creating something new in the Jew that is coming from him. It's not coming from him. All he's doing is revealing what's there. When you have precious diamonds in the ground, okay? There was recent, a week ago, right? When there's precious diamond, Hashem said the pasuk that you're a desirable land. There are diamonds and everything, all the precious materials are in the ground. When you dig for them and you find them, you didn't create them. You didn't make them. You didn't do anything new. All you did was revealed what's really there.
But is there a story of everything?
Correct.
It's not a story of this.
In Elul, the king is awakening it more. You're right. That's every day a Jew and Hashem are essentially connected. But during the year, the king is not in the field, meaning we could be far from Hashem. In the month of Elul, Hashem is coming to awaken. This is what the Jew really is. This is so much what the Rambam explains, what we learned many, many times. Yeah, the concept the Rambam says, when the Gemara says, you force the guy until he wants to. You beat him up until he wants to. The question, what type of will is this? He doesn't want to get beat. He's not wanting it. So what does the Rambam explain? The Jew wants to do it. Every Jew really wants to do good. What happens? Yitzrei Ra'ansi, the Yetzer Hara, a foreign entity, is stopping the Jew from doing what the Jew really wants. So when you beat up the Yetzer Hara, you're not beating up the Jew. The Jew wants to do it. There's an external force called the Yetzer Hara that's not letting the person do what the person really wants to do. So therefore, you have to beat it up and reveal it. So when the Jew does it, this is what he really wants. That's what the Jew wants. The Yetzer Hara gets in the way. So the same thing, the diamond that the Jew has is a revelation that the Jew really has. It's not Hashem stimulating it. And that's why when the king is Makabel, goes out to the field, And that creates the will of the people to go meet the king. And then even more than he smiles, good countenance, whatever. And then he shows this loosened like face, in a way that he creates. That's not creating something new. All it is doing is revealing what's really there. See, Freud said, Lahavdil, that if you dig deep in a person, you're going to find mud. The deeper you dig in a person, the more mud you're going to find. And Siddur says, the deeper you dig in a person, based on that Rambam, the deeper you dig in a person, the more diamonds you're going to find. You're not going to find mud. Adarabba. This is what the person really wants.
The hidden is always there.
Correct, but it's hidden.
Right, but there is obviously a difference between Elul and other months.
Right, because the king is closer to awakening. But you need to want. You have to go out to meet the king. In our case, we have to go from the midbar to the Sada. The Rebbe right over here, to go to the place where the people are in the Sada.
Every time you go this far, you go out to meet the king.
Correct. But when is Hashem closer to us? The pasuk says, "There shall Hashem be matzah." It's the first pasuk of the fast day Haftarah, right in Yeshaya. There shall Hashem be matzah, could all be Yosef Kodev. Right. So the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva quotes from the Gemara that says, "When is Hashem be matzah found? Be Yosef Kodev. Elo asari yamim shebein Rosh Hashanah liyom Kippurim." That's when Hashem is close. Hashem is always here. Hashem's always here. What do you mean he's closer?
More revealed.
The answer is more revealed. So Elul, Hashem is more revealed. But that doesn't make it if you don't want to. If you don't want to go out to the field to meet the king, number one, he's not going to receive you. He's not going to show you this Giluyim. You have to want to. But what the Rebbe is uniquely explaining over here is not that the king is creating something new, an awakening to do something that you don't have from before. It's what you have, he's just revealing it. In the Nimshal Valukus, the tshuva that comes through the revelation of Yud Gimel Midas Rachim of Elul is Ayidei Hagilud Yud Gimel Midas Rachim. What it means is like this: through the revelation of Yud Gimel Midas Rachim, Mizgal Arotz and Pnimi Yisrael is revealed the real essence of the Jew, like it says in the Maamar, after the Mashal B'Mal Basad that Shem Kel is Reish is called a Yud Gimel Midas and Mekain V'Chalulusa. Why? Because you have the Yud Gimel Midas Rachim. Okay, it's a big machlekes in Kabbalah. Is Hashem part of it? Does Kel Rachum start of? But here the Rebbe is saying that Hashem Kel Adachapayim. By Kel is the first one of the Inyan Shem Kel. What is the level of Kel? That's Ein Tzal Baruch Hu Mamish, the infinite revelation of Hashem, like the pasuk says. Kel Havaya Vayor Lonu. Okay, in Halal. Kel Hashem Vayor Lonu Ispuchag Vavesim Makanis Mizbeach. So Kel Havaya Vayor Lonu. What is the level of Kel? Vayor, he's shining to us. The Erd Hu Kameyo Etzim. So if Kel is the revelation of Or is what's called Me'en Amor. Or is similar to the light. Let me read the next line and explain it. There's Hashpah and there's Or. He says, Shefa mashpia mitzamtim atzmi lefi erech hamakabel. The Shefa, I'll explain the whole thing in a second, is the way the mashpia, the giver, has to limit himself to come down to the level of the receiver. But Or is not. Or is Mein Amor. Meaning like this. When Or and Shefa Chassidus gives a lot of different mishalim, and each was if this parent's creating a child is Or and Shefa. And then you have teaching and teacher and students. It's also hashba. Then you have hashba gashmi. You give somebody parnasa. Okay, but all these things. Bottom line is, when the mashpia is teaching the mushpa, when the teacher is teaching the student, you have to lower yourself to the level of the Talmud, right? And therefore, from that lesson of the student to the student, you can't tell who the mashpia is. Let's say the teacher gives a class and then he writes it down. From that class, you cannot tell who the mashpia really is.
Sometimes from Talmud, you don't know who Mashkiach is. You say it's a Talmud of song.
Because then, Chassidus explains, the Talmud is so connected to the mashpia, he gets it. But that's after a long avodah. Or you look outside, right now, that's sunlight. I don't see the sun, but this light is revealing that it's sunlight. Okay? So Shefa has to be mitzamthem in Ila va'olol, cause and effect. Or shines the way it is. And when you look at Or, you know right away what the Ma'or is. You know the source. You can tell right away what type of light it is. Look in this room, you know right away it's electric lights, it's not sunlight. But he says, therefore what's the first of the Yud Gimel Midas HaRachmim? Kel, Hashem, Kel, Rachum Mechanu. So what's Kel? Kel is the level of Or, Kel Havai Vayor Lanu, is the level of Or, V'chol Echad Mi Yisrael Mer Gilu Zeh, and in every single Jew, this Gilu is revealed, and not only that, Mizach Shagil is Shem Kel Shel V'chol Echad Mi Yisrael, is the Sad Umeshel Bekirbei. What does the word Yisrael mean? You have Sar Kel, and the Yud means continuously. So let's explain. This psukim that mean a Yud at the beginning of the word means it's constantly being done, continuously. Yisrael is Yasher Kel, okay, or Sar Kel, and the Yud is continuous. That means, what is the name of Yisrael? Yisrael means the Jews are at a level that what is their Sar, what controls them? The level of Kel, the Gilu of Elokus. So that's what happens in the month of Elul. Because Hashem is revealing himself to the primus of the Jew, to the extent it becomes the Yisrael is Yud Sar Kel. Okay? And he says, it's interesting, in 31 he says that the Yud, what we just said, that the Yud shows in continuity. That this bittul, that a Jew has to every single Jew has to Hashem, is bittul shelamayla mitam v'das. If logic controls, then things change. Sometimes it's more logic, less logic. Understand it this way or that way, right? If it's constant, the Kabbalah soil is continuous. Why is Kabbalah so continuous? Because it's not seichel. Seichel changes. You get older, you have a greater seichel, or dumber, depends which way you're going. But seichel changes. When is it continuous? When is there the Yud? That's when it's l'mayla mitam v'das. Because again, tam v'das, based on your logic, some days you think better, some days you think clearer, some things you don't, that all changes. Ki bi Yisrael, hu gili oren tzav baruch atzma mamish shel l'mayla miyishtalshus. So what happens in the month of Elul? Hashem is not doing anything new to the Jew. All Hashem is doing to the Jew is revealing what the Jew really has within him. And that's through the Yud Gimel Midas HaRachmim, that the first one is Kel, that it should become Sar Kel with a Yud in continuous way. that the Gilui within the Jew is Elukus. But it's not the king giving him anything. The king is revealing it, that's all. Through the Yud Gimel Midas Racham of Elul. Shereishis and Umekadim B'chlasin is the level of Kel. Mis'eid or Misgalet. This awakens and reveals. The level of Kel, Shebachol Echad V'Echem Yisrael, the Sar Kel. That makes by the Yid it reveals within the Jew what if they want, if they go out to meet the king. You have to go out to want to meet the king. That's the first thing. You don't want to meet the king, you're not going to get any of this. But when you have the awakening from yourself, and the king makes it accessible by going out to the field. So now you have the ability to go meet him. Because in the palace they don't let you in. So now they go out to meet the king. So when you go out meet the king, he's mekabel kulam and b'mar upon kulam. He reveals this gilui. What does he reveal? The level of kale. Yud Gimel Misrach, the first one is kale. Within the Jew, which is Yisrael, Sar Kale, he reveals that level within the Jew. V'zeu shavei the Elul's ani Ledodi. Why? Av she'seir sayidei gilui mumayla. Even though Hashem coming out into the field, Hashem mad upon him, is coming from Hashem. Ki agil is shelamayla. This gilui of above is only a reason, siba cause, shayada mizgala arotzim primi da adam. It's revealing really what the person is. It's tanilo daiti. But sometimes this it's coming from the Jew. The Jew is connecting to Hashem. But sometimes it's behelim, it's concealed. So Elul is revealing the level of anilo daiti, but it's actually the avoid of the Jew himself.
What about Hashem?
Huh? So the whole machlekes in Kabbalah, what's the chassidut being done there? Is Hashem, how do you count it? Hashem counted as 1, 2, whatever. But normally the Rabbi says that the beginning is Yud Gimel Mitzrach. So this is therefore, all these Giluyim of Elul are not a Gilu Momayla. Nisan, which is the half, again, the year is divided into 2. Tishrei and Nisan, right? Therefore, all the arguments that Hashem created the world in Nisan, or Tishrei, with the others born Nisan, or Tishrei, Mashiach coming, Nisan, or Tishrei, the 2 fundamental avodas of the year. Half a year is Tishrei, half a year is Nisan, right? But Nisan, we learned many times, is a complete Gilui Momayla. Nes. Nisan means Nes. We learned, the Rebbe quoted many times, the Gemara says in Brachas, when the Gemara speaks about dreams, it's a whole number of tafim in Gemara talk about dreams. If you see this, what it means, you see this, what it means. Anyway, so the Gemara says, if you see a word in a dream that starts with the letter Nun, you should know Nisan Nasalai. You're going to be getting miracles. If you see a word with 2 nuns, this is what the Gemara says in Brachas, then Nisan Nasalai. Miracles you're going to get. Why? Because Nun is the first letter of Nes. So the Chassidus explains, Nisan begins with a Nun and ends with a Nun. It's not stam 2 nuns. It begins, that means the whole thing is Nun. That means Nisan is a complete Gilui Momayla. Nigla Aleim Ramin Pesach, Nigla Aleim Melech Malchi Amlochem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay? It was a revelation of godliness, Momayla, completely Momayla. The Jews, that says, we read in Nagoda, Ba'at Erdem Ve'erdia. The Jews were naked for mitzvahs. They had nothing. Lo Yoru Alakim. They didn't fear God. So what happened on Pesach? Don't forget, the original Pesach before Matan Torah yet. So before on Pesach, Hashem revealed himself as a complete gift from above. The Jews didn't have it yet within them. 1 second. That's the Aved of Nisan. Here the Aved of Tishrei is Momata L'mayla. It's Anila Daidi. By the way, there's another pasuk in Shir Hashirim that says Daidi Li Vaniloi. There's one Anila Daidi V'Daidi Li, which is Elul. But then there's another pasuk that says Daidi Li Vaniloi. My friend is to me and I'm to him. which is the level of Nissen. Not Ani Ledodi Vedodi, which is the acronym Elul, but Vedodi Vani Loi is Aveda Mumayla. It's coming first Vedodi and then Vani Loi. Then I have a connection to him. But that's the level of Nissen. But Tishrei, on the other hand, Elul Tishrei, is Mulmata L'mayla, the level of Tshuva. So therefore, we learned Tishrei is spelled Tav, Shin, Reish, Yud. It's the Aleph base going backwards. That's Mulmata L'mayla. You go from Tav to Shin to Reish to Yud. So you're going Mulmata L'mayla. Right? So in fact, the Rebbe in a Sikha explains, there's a contradiction, because the Gemara says, but the halacha is, B'nissen nigalu, u'b'nissen asidin ligoyel. The Jews were redeemed in Nissen, Mashiach's coming in Nissen. Yeah? So the Rebbe asks in a Sikha, the Rambam says, Yisrael eisin tshuva, u'miyad hein nigolim. The Jew does tshuva, and immediately they're going to be redeemed. That means it's dependent on tshuva. Tshuva is Tishrei, not Nissen. So here we're saying that Jews are going to be redeemed in Nissen, that's the Gilui Momayla. And then we say that the Yisrael Eis and Tshuva, through Tshuva, they're going to be redeemed. So which one is it? Nissen or Tishrei? So the Rebbe explains that even the level of Tshuva is coming from an awakening from above, like he's saying here. But not that it's something separate, it's the Jew himself. And therefore we explain this, there's a famous sikh of the Friedrich Rabbi, that when the Shabbos from Mavorchim Elul came in the city of Lubavitch, the whole atmosphere changed, they felt the tshuva wind. Yeah, we mentioned this many times. When did the Friedrich and the Kutta Deborim, when did the Friedrich Rabbi say that sikha? On a Pesach. On a Pesach sikha, the previous Rebbe said, when in Elul, the Rebbe is asking, why did Friedrich Rebbe say it on Pesach? It should say it in Elul. So the Rebbe explains in the whole Sikha, because the Gilui of Elul comes a Gilui Momayl, which is Pesach. But you have to understand, in Pesach, in Nissen, you have Tishrei and Nissen also. In Tishrei, you have Nissen. So Elul is a Nissen within Tishrei, because it's the king going out. But he's not awakening something new, he's awakening something that you really have. It's just hidden. If you're fire, you don't have it, so he brings it closer to you. You can have a fan blowing cool air, but you don't feel anything because it's too far away. So what do? You move the fan closer. So you just didn't create a new wind. The wind is there from the fan. It just was too far. Now you bring it closer, now you feel it. But you're not making a new fan. You're not putting the fan on. If it's too far, you don't feel it. So now it's closer. Hashem comes closer, you feel it.